Winston, and this is Twisted Nerves Painting. There we go, we've got the music again. I'm just recycling what I used before. Forgive me while I adjust the music here a little. There we go. How's that? Is that more like a background? Good evening, David. I'm glad you could make it. Excellent. How are you tonight, Skunk Paw? I hope you had a good day. Gonna work on a little battle tech this evening. It wasn't a bad day. I caught something, though. I've got a cough and a fever. So I'm only going to stream for about an hour this evening, and then go to bed early. So let's work on the edge highlighting a little more on this before I give it a tint of contrast from the airbrush, which I might do next time, but maybe it'll happen here this evening. can think of no better way to unwind from the stress of the day than relaxing and painting for a while. Good evening, Ken Peters. I'm glad you could make it. How are you doing this evening? I'm not doing too bad. I've got some cold medicine on board, so at least I don't have that sinus pressure headache thing going on. A little shaky this evening. That's all right. Just gotta breathe. Imagine, visualize breathing. Breathe in. Visualize the air entering your lungs. Exhale. Inhale. Focus on the air in and out. Steady your mind. I had one of those packets of vitamin C powder, though I really should load up on more. There we go, just hitting all the edges with a light gray that are going to point up towards light. need to thin this out a little bit more, it seems. You don't want it too thin, but you want it to flow off your brush nicely. And you don't want to overload your brush. So of course it is perfectly acceptable in this case to just paint on yourself a bit. All you really want to do is run the side of the brush along the edges very gently. Well, I can check the way it flows off the brush, and I'm able to tell if I need to thin it a little bit more, or if I've thinned it too much. But mostly, it's to take off excess paint. You want to load your brush up good so that it's going to flow off of it, but you don't want too much on there, so you just discharge a little bit. See, if you get too much on there, you get fat chunky spots on your edge highlights, like that one. But that's okay, we can fix those. Fat chunky spots eventually just become weathering or chipping. And it all kind of adds to the effect. I never look at them as mistakes. Well, thank you, David. I hope I'm able to pass on some of what I know. Not that I know everything, but let's see. Use the foam here a little bit to brace myself. This is just a chunk of packing foam from a pelican case I have. Anytime, Skunk Paw. I will be putting out more videos soon on just basic how to start out things. Thinning paints, brush choices. I mean, part of that is going to be what you like as you experience them. Part of that for some people might be cost. There's a lot of things to think of. My dad liked model trains. I really found them to be fun too. I had one when I was a kid. It was one of the starts into this hobby. Building the terrain and the whole setup for the track and everything. Forgive the occasional coughing fit here. I will do everything I can to manage to reach over and nail that mute button before it happens. Another thing I suggest if you're just starting out is get yourself a wet palette. It doesn't really matter what brand. Good evening, Bunny. I hope you had a good day. Just contemplating where I'm going to highlight here. That Army Painter palette is a very nice one. That is the one I am currently using, but by no means was the one I started with. I mean, you can go as low tech as a sponge in a dish of water with some parchment on top. It works. Though that Army Painter one is very convenient. I like that it's good for travel. So many people like to take their hobbying on the road and go to the local game store, and that is perfect for that. The excellent thing I find about painting things like edge highlights and camouflage patterns is how involved the task is. You have to focus. You have to focus away from other things. Pain, life, the world around you. For a while, you can just lose yourself in it. Breathe in, breathe out. The past has already happened. You can't control the future. All there is now. Focus on now. Painting gives us the opportunity to step away from modern society for a moment. Slow down. Think about something else, another world. Just for a while. It helps us recharge. Focus on all the edges that are going to face up into the light. Focus on your breathing in and out. Stop thinking. As odd as that sounds, your mind is going to try to trick you. Our minds don't like to meditate, but that's what we're doing. You know, David, that reminds me of a battlefield that I built once on a table. It was mostly made out of railroad buildings. Actually, it was for metal tech. a lot of model train kits are the same scale or very close. Now I know I'm normally getting my Warhammer on here, but I wanted to get some paint on this, as Dangerous Pepper was kind enough to send these to me. And if I ever do get to see him again, I would love to have some mechs so that we can get some Battletech on like we did back in the day. You know, I am not exactly sure of what Battletech's scale is currently. I know it's slightly different than it was like long ago, but it's not that much different. Let's see here. Actually, I think it might be almost the same. That is a Hatchet Man from Rel Partha from the 80s, next to the current Plastic Crusader. And this is a slightly lighter mech, so it should be a little smaller. So, I don't know, maybe their scale hasn't changed, and it's just my imagination. Perhaps someone can educate me in the comments. Otherwise, I'll have to look that one up, because I would love to build some terrain again to actually have a three-dimensional surface to play some Battletech on. One of the things I loved about Battletech is it was one of the only games that kind of gave a shout out in its lore to one of my favorite movies. Buckaroo Banzai. I am going to paint these mechs up as Team Banzai, the mercenary team of mech warriors led by Dr. Buckaroo Banzai. I mean, what other movie could be so cool as to give Jeff Goldblum the excuse to walk around in that outfit? And little did we all know, Jeff Goldblum wasn't even acting. That was Jeff Goldblum. Good evening, Chuck Hebner. I'm glad you could make it. It's good to see you. That sounds about right, Skunk Paw. I have an infantry trooper from Battletech, and yeah, he maybe stands about yay high on the mech. I mean, like to its ankle. Focus on your breathing. Still your mind. Steady your hand. Hey, thank you for joining us. I appreciate it, Skunk Paw. Grab that shower while you can. Sometimes I sit and contemplate so long, the paint dries on the brush. Darn it. Let's try this again. There we go. If you're interested who did the music this evening, I put the attribution in the information section of the stream. It's all out of the YouTube music library. Though hopefully soon I will have some selections from a viewer who reached out to me and offered me access to their library of original music. Indeed, Chuck, a perfect quote. Meditation is an excellent way to relieve stress, to let go of pain, racing thoughts, all of these things. Even the simplest forms of breath meditation, they can help you focus and slow your mind. And these days, isn't that something we all could use a little of? Just a few minutes every day. Ignore the thoughts. Don't react to them. Focus on a task. Focus on your breathing. By doing so, you let your mind recharge. Oh, I understand, David, but the whole point of it is the focus on your breathing. Even though you are playing an instrument, it's that focus that helps your mind actually, especially because you're playing an instrument. I found that very meditative. I used to play saxophone. and a bit of drums and piano. Music is meditation as well. Good evening, Joe. I'm glad you could make it. I'm not actually painting Warhammer today. Doing the Battletech thing this evening. Hey, Dangerous Pepper, I'm glad you could make it, man. Getting a little more paint on the Crusader. I hope you're having a good evening. Well, I'm glad you could drop in, Joe. I appreciate it. I hope you're feeling better, man. Oh, that's amazing to hear. I'm glad you got your printer up. I'm really excited to see what you do with that. Dangerous Pepper makes really cool leather stuff that he etches with a machine he's got. And it's amazing. I love the stuff he does with it. Oh, I understand the fatigue part, Joe. I'm sorry. There are days that just cripples me worse than anything. Just can't even get out of bed. It's just like your batteries are dead. Oh, it is. And good evening, Angsar. The fatigue is pretty darn random at times. Now, that's a cool thing to use a laser to print things on crop circles. I like it. There are some really neat things that I've seen people make with laser etchers. Oh, awesome. You will have to send those to me sometime. Dangerous Pepper. I would love to see those. Let me take just a quick moment to grab something to drink, and I will be right back. Good evening, Marcelo. I'm glad you could make it. Sorry, I had to grab something to drink there. I hope you're having a good evening. I'm sorry to hear that. I hope you have a better day tomorrow. It was kind of a blech day for me as well. I have a fever. You know, he does kind of have that Randy the Macho Man Savage pose going on, doesn't he? Yes, I'm painting him. It's just amazing how many details he has. Every little panel, every heat sink, every weapon port, it's all detailed. And as you get more paint on him, the details stick out even more. It's not my favorite type of plastic to work with, but they really got good detail. And on a lot of these mechs, there's very few mold lines. I used to be a mold cutter, so when you can cut a mold and make a miniature, and I can't tell where your mold came apart, you're doing a good job. And you can really tell somebody with some skill worked on making these. Now you can tell a couple of the sculpts simply were difficult to make a mold out of, and you wound up with a parting line. But they're not as bad as some miniatures I've seen. Alright, back again with the number 1 brush from Artist Opus. That is one of my favorite quotes from Asimov. And it is so true. Never stop learning. And never think for a moment, even though you've been doing something for 40 years or more, that there isn't something new for you to learn about it. I've spent 8 months learning that. I've always enjoyed painting. But I took a long break from this hobby because of diminished neurological function. And when I came back, I was able to pick up where I left off. I adapted pretty quickly. Found myself back where I was years ago. And then I looked around. I saw these painters online putting their work out, and they were doing things I never had seen before. Painting in ways that just never dawned on me back then. So I started watching the videos. And I started learning a few things, but some of the techniques I found a little difficult. So I started supporting one of those painters, and I've been learning from him. And wow, have I been learning from him. Oh. So yes, learn. Pick up new things. Never be afraid to load the white ink into your airbrush and point it at a perfectly painted miniature. Oh, I like this one. Last time I played this music track, I didn't have headphones on. So you all heard the music, but I did not. Some of these, I mean, I'll admit I'm weird, but some of these I find strangely relaxing. Now, I'm not always looking to relax when I paint, but more often these days I am. All right. My head is starting to get stuffy again. I think I am going to call it an evening here. And we will do this again soon. I gotta say, I really appreciate all of you coming to hang out and paint with me. You don't know what it means to me. It's amazing. And I would not be able to do this were it not for the excellent people who have started to support me on Patreon. I would like to thank all of you. I can't possibly express my gratitude to you. I really, please, I thank you, Dangerous Pepper, for being one of the tabletop commanders on Patreon. And I would like to thank Haunted Bagel and John McCardle and Ken Peters. I would also like to thank Professor Potato. And I hope I can get a stream in sometime when you're able to make it, because you're awake, given that you are in the UK. And thank you to Doug Getzinger. And thank you to all of my members on Patreon and all of my supporters here on YouTube. I appreciate every last one of you. If you haven't already, please like the stream, Share it with your crafty friends. And check me out over on Patreon. And if you can this holiday season, please join me and contribute to this channel. I would really, really value that. Have an excellent evening, everyone. Stay safe and healthy.